This is author Harlan Ellison. In 1967, he published a short story called I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, which was later adapted into a game in 1995. I'm sure a lot of people know this story already, especially if you clicked on this video, but I'll briefly recap the story beats. In the Cold War, humanity builds a supercomputer called AM. 3 supercomputers actually. One Chinese, one Russian, one American. The computers are so advanced that at one point they merge and become conscious. Now, the AI, AM, realizes it's got no body, no soul, it was put into this world without consent and to suffer. And what does it do? It wipes out all of humanity, except for 5 people. The supercomputer has covered the world in itself, essentially building an iron dome over all land. In this dome, he tortures these 5 people over and over again. AM hates humanity. He feels nothing but pure, unbridled rage, and he lets the last people feel every bit of it. At the end of the story, one of the 5 people, a man named Ted, tricks AM by killing the other 4 when the supercomputer was distracted. AM retaliates and turns Ted into a blob with no mouth or limbs. He's essentially turned into a slug, unable to do anything, immortal, just like AM. He has no mouth and he must scream. I realize this recap is very brief, but this video isn't about the short story or the game. Not really, it's more about the themes. Over the years, people have come up with their own themes, and a lot of them seem very accurate. But for the sake of this video, I'm gonna look at what the author intended when he wrote it. According to Ellison, the short story is a warning about the misuse of technology, and its ending is intended to represent how there is a spark of humanity in us that in the last, final, most excruciating moment, we will do the unspeakable in the name of kindness, even if it means sacrificing ourselves. So, the story is about the misuse and danger of technology and the indomitable human spirit. Pretty awesome. Now take this message, pull down your pants and take a big fucking shit all over it, because that's what the video essay I'm about to show you did. I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream is a joke. This sounds ridiculous, right? How could one of the most bleak stories ever told be a joke?
I mean, the structure of the short story is literally that of a joke. An omnipotent, hate-fueled machine god has exterminated all of humanity but 5 people he keeps alive solely to torture eternally. The hook? After 109 years of living in this never-ending torment nexus, one of the survivors shares a rumor. There might be canned food in the ice caverns. The development? The group undertakes an arduous 100-mile trek through Am's hellscape, enduring constant harassment and torture until, against all odds, they find a pile of canned goods. Eureka! And just when hope enters the story for the first time, the punchline. They don't have a can opener.
His argument boils down to, this story fits into the setup of a joke, therefore it is one. This makes no sense at all. Just because you can cram it into a setup, hook, development, and punchline doesn't make it a joke. Star Wars is a joke too then. Setup: the galaxy is ruled by an evil empire. Hook: Luke discovers that he can help the rebels. Development: they attack the Death Star. Punchline: the Death Star explodes. This is a stupid argument and it's far-fetched, but if it was just this, if this was all he meant to say, okay, sure. What he then does though is go over the game in detail and its themes. And around the halfway point I noticed something that forced me to make this video.
Not just as an omnipotent tyrant, but as a machine that takes the darkest corners of your inner life and turns them into physical reality. The horror is not just cosmic anymore, it is intra-psychic. And the brilliance of this transformation is that it reframes the role of the player. Death is not a game over screen, it becomes part of a narrative logic. The story absorbs failure rather than rejecting it, raw. And M, hovering over it all, designs each trial not as a puzzle box, but as a psychological chamber. When he cannot eat, he sleeps beside them for warmth. This is not heroic suffering, it is intimate, undignified, and deeply human. Benny learns empathy not because he reflects on his past, but because he's finally embedded in the vulnerability of others. Instead of clinging to survival, Benny offers himself. Not to redeem his past, not to perform heroism, but simply to spare someone else the pain he now understands. Benny does not undo his past, but he confronts it. And for Am, that is failure enough. At all. It is not heroism, it is interruption. This is what Hannah Arendt described as the banality of evil, not monstrous sadism, not ideological fervor, but the quiet efficiency of people who stop thinking of themselves as moral agents at all. Evil, in this mode, does not announce itself. It routinizes. It hides behind procedure, hierarchy, and professional identity. Nimdok does not need to hate his victims to destroy them. He only needs to do his job. Once trial, the color is not symbolic. It is neurological.
Alright, I get it!
It's not just that, it's that. And that's that. These are telltale signs of AI writing. Something else it does is be vague. It spews a bunch of nonsense that is extremely vague and not really related at all.
The 5 survivors have been tortured for 109 years. That's a long time, long enough that the number almost stops meaning anything. But at some point I caught myself wondering, why 109? It's such a strangely specific number, not a round one, not symbolic in any obvious way. But then I realized it's exactly one more than 108, and with that realization, it becomes impossible to unsee. See, in Vedic philosophies, 108 is a number that shows up again and again. Let's zoom out a little. There's an old way of describing life not as a straight line, but as a cycle. Not a punishment, not a failure, just a pattern that keeps repeating itself as long as it's approached in the same way. In many Vedic philosophies and traditions such as Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism, that cycle is called samsara. Stripped of doctrine, samsara is simply this: the momentum of habit, desire, aversion, and fear, the way experience keeps looping when nothing interrupts it. Within that cycle, there are two forces that are often misunderstood as opposites: suffering, in the doctrine of the Buddha designated by the word dukkha, and joy, or sukha. These forces are not opposites, they are complements. A life made only of suffering is obviously out of balance. Endless pain crushes everything until nothing can respond anymore. But a life made only of joy is just as out of balance. Joy without contrast becomes thin, brittle. It demands constant reinforcement.
What? It has to be the furthest reach of all time. It's not 109 years because of that. It's just 109 years because that's a long fucking time.
If eliminating suffering were the answer, then a world that succeeded at doing exactly that, systematically, relentlessly, should look like paradise. But let's be honest, doesn't this idea of a paradise sound incredibly boring?
No, endless paradise does not sound boring. I don't need to have eaten shit to know ice cream tastes good. I wouldn't expect a computer to understand that though. So yeah, this has to be the most insulting garbage I've ever watched. I'm not saying it's 100% AI. The editing is pretty good, and at least it still has a real narrator. But what the most scary part about this is, most comments don't know it's AI. They just don't know. And yeah, that's all I have to say on the matter. Don't use AI.